Give you an injury update. Vaughn remains on PUP. Damian Harris will be somewhat limited today, still dealing with a knee soreness. Cam Lewis, same with his groin. Ilianku will not participate in practice. Should have Gabe back today. And then TB, Terrell Bernard is still going to be out with the hamstring. So with that, I'll turn it over to you and your questions. He should be back today.
Just to clarify, is Cam Lewis going to be limited today, or is he not back?
Yeah, he'll be somewhat limited, yeah.
We decided if Josh is going to play this weekend or next weekend?
Yeah, he will. So as far as playtime goes, thanks, Sal. As far as playtime goes, the starters will play around a quarter and a half, give or take, and we'll go from there.
Your thoughts on that? I mean, there's so many different viewpoints on it. Some just don't want their starters at all. What's your viewpoint on why you want them to get a quarter and a half?
Yeah, simply put, it's to get them ready for the season. So we took a little bit of a different approach last year, and this year we're going back to what we've somewhat done in the years past, other than the COVID, of course, where we didn't have preseason games. So, again, just trying to do right by the players and getting them ready to go for week one.
Even though there's going to be, a 3-week gap between when he plays and then when the regular season starts, you don't feel like, that 3-week gap, like it's going to be memory lapse loss of, you know what I mean? I don't know.
No, I mean, it's like anything else. You want to get them ready and as much dress rehearsals as you can put them in to make sure that they're ready to go. I think that's what you do, and it's what we feel like is the right thing for the team this year and where we're at. And you look at, it's no different. You look at the military and what they do. They don't just throw the guys out there, right? So I'm not saying this is what they do in terms of the military, but they're the best of the best in what they do, and they have dress rehearsals also. So that's what we do.
With the multiple injuries at linebacker and just kind of continuing to evaluate that starting middle linebacker position, what have you been seeing over the last few days there?
Right now I think there's room for improvement. Quite honestly, I think that we've got to do a better job with leading the defense. We've got to do a better job with communication, execution. So that's an area of concern right now.
You ended up mentioning both communication and execution, but is there one that's you're seeing a bigger problem with, or is there anything?
No, it's the job description, right? It's the total job description of running a defense, leading the defense, standing in front of the huddle, communicating the defense. So it all goes together, right? It's all connected.
Is discipline? Well, I mean, he's been involved in a few on-field skirmishes and stuff like that. Do you worry about that? Is that a concern with Godson?
Listen, it's an emotional game, and emotions get involved even in practice, and I remain fully confident in T-Dot. There's growing pains along the way, and you have to be able to control your emotions at the same time, right? It can only go so far, and you line up and you come back and you win the next play, and so I think he'll learn from those. I'm confident he will.
Sean, in the preseason game, we saw AJ kind of bump up to the second team. What have you seen from him over the course of camp? I don't think you know a lot about him, but what have you seen from him and how he's progressed?
Yeah, I think the piece I like about what AJ does in particular is some of the things I mentioned earlier. He's done that in the past, right? He leads, he communicates well, he knows what we want to get done, and I think those are three important areas to basically being the coach on the field that we need. He's mature. He's been around the NFL and this defense for quite some time. So, obviously there's a lot of trust and faith in him.
You mentioned that balance of it's an emotional game, but also you have to be able to snap back for the next play. We've talked to guys over the last couple of days and hear their perspective, but from a coaching standpoint, what do you make of the last couple of practices? Do you feel it's hitting the right balance, or are those conversations still ongoing?
Ongoing conversations about.
Just like, hey, let's make sure we're emotional about this, channeling it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a fine line. I do like the competitive nature of our football team. I think that's important, that you don't dull the edge of the sword, right? But at the same time, you have to be able to control it and harness it and channel it towards playing the next play. So with the proper amount of discipline. So we don't ignore that. It has been somewhat chippy the last couple of days, and to some extent, I think that's good for us, because you got to have an edge.
Sean, what did you see to lead you to bringing Andy Isabella in, and what have you seen since he's arrived?
Well, the speed element obviously stands out probably the most. I go back to, I was talking to Andy about this when he got here. I think it was his Senior Bowl performance during the week. I think that's the last Senior Bowl I've attended, just due to our postseason play and whatnot. But I thought he had a good week that week and really showed up. And I know he got drafted by Arizona, but I thought honestly that the Raiders were going to take him, because I think he played for Coach Gruden that week, at least at the Senior Bowl there. So he's been impressive to this point, and he'll get some opportunities on Saturday.
In your experience, guys who come from smaller schools like that, you came from UMass, right?
Yeah.
There's not just one way that the learning curve is different, but you have to take that in consideration, maybe looking at his career, that he came from a smaller school, and maybe there could be reasons why it just hasn't worked out yet, and that's a tough adjustment for a lot of guys.
Well, yes and no. I think anymore, coming from a small school, it depends on how small you're talking about. I mean, UMass is not a super small, football program. So I think you do take that into consideration. But really, he's only been at one other place. Right. Now, if he had been at 5 other places, or any player for that matter, then you're going, okay, well, maybe it's just not going to work. But in this case, he's only been at one other place. So we try and take a player like we've done before and say, hey, can they become the best version of themselves here, wearing the colors of the Buffalo Bills and in our environment, in our culture? And he's done a phenomenal job to this point. And the thing I love about him is he plays hard. He's always prepared. He just does the little things. He jogs on the field, jogs off the field. All those little things matter, and he's got good DNA that way. So, he's opened some eyes to this point.
Brandon Shell decided to retire. Just where do you think that leaves you with backup people at tackle?
Yeah, we're looking for somebody to step up and raise their game. Certainly, 2 young players, 2 young players, and then we've got Quez as well, who's a veteran player, and confidence in all 3 of those guys. But somebody's got to step up and kind of separate themselves to be that swing backup tackle.
So just to clarify, you're looking internally, you mean?
I'm talking about a roster. I didn't say internally, externally. I'm just saying I'm talking about a roster. Yeah.
When you said each milestone that Damar reaches, and you talked about how courageous and how remarkable it was last weekend, is there anything more that he really has to prove to you on the field mentally, based on how well he's done in practice, in games?
John, I don't think so. I mean, you're out there at practice. It's not like we're playing two-hand touch out there at practice. So I say that because there's been enough or several, thud type of contact points, right? So that, on top of some of the live stuff that he came across in the last game in particular, there's just been enough of a sample there where you're saying, hey, he's executed well and come out of that healthy, right? So from my non-medical standpoint, I think he's checked all the boxes as far as that goes.
Sean, I know we talked about this after the game. I think it was on Sunday. But when it comes to Khalil being such a young player, and I know he was really hard on himself after the game last week, do you have to have any extra conversations with him or any other words to make sure that that doesn't fester, or that he can just kind of move on and get rid of that?
Well, I mean, in some cases, yes, in other cases, no. In this case, you know, I think it is important to follow up, and Adam Henry does a great job with that. And confidence is an interesting thing, right? For all of us, right? You go through life, you go through situations in a sport like this where it's the best of the best. You're going to have some plays like that, and I think part of it is, can you carry your confidence through the course of a season? That's a trait, you know. That's a mental skill, and I think, you know, Khalil is one of our more confident players, and we're confident in him, and I know Josh is as well, and so I don't see that becoming an issue for him, but it is something that is a challenge for performers, especially in this type of environment.
With Bobby Babbage, some players have said that he's really good at like being really fiery when he needs to, but then being calming when players need that. How have you seen him kind of, I know he's had this role for a year, but like especially lately, balance that of meeting players where they need them?
Yeah, I think that's just what you said, is meeting players where they need you to meet them, or where they're at. I think that's important. Bobby does a really good job of that, and he's really grown in his time with us. He's been here now since we've been here 6 years, right, going on 7 now. So it's been fun to watch him develop.
Sean, what has Latavius brought to the running back room, maybe on the field and off the field?
Yeah, steady hand. He's just getting to know him as a person. He's polished, professional, you know, veteran presence in our building, in that running back room on our offense. You know, he's played in this league for I'm not sure how many years now, but long enough that it's by no mistake that he's had the success that he's had. When you watch his habits, I mean, just this morning he was in early, like he typically always is, and getting his routine in that he needs to get himself ready for the day. And then you look at what he does in the community. I know in and around the area that he's from, in Syracuse area, and it just seems like a terrific person, and he's had a great influence on our team to this point.
Does the size stand out to you as well? It looks like at times he's standing with the wrong position group.
Yeah.
With all the other guys.
Yeah, no, I was watching him at walkthrough last night. It's just, you know, I would not want to tackle him. He's big and he runs big.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.